Security is something we should need to keep an eye on. Improving it is crucial for building strong business relationships, trust, and ultimately the success. Hey everyone, this is Prashant Chaudhary. I welcome you all to my channel Classic Power App. In this video, we are trying to implement a security through the connectors and the actions. Before proceeding to it, we should first understand what is connector and what is actions. Connector is an intermediate between the two platforms. Like whenever we need to talk from Power Platform to the Azure DevOps or maybe the Azure Blob Storage. So Azure is our connector, whereas creating a blob is our action. So we will try to implement or try to block some actions as per our requirement. We are not going to block the whole connector. Instead, we are going to stop the some of the actions for that particular connector. So let's try to implement this. I'm just taking to my screen. Here, this particular securities we can implement using the DLP. DLP is, as we all know, that is a data loss prevention policy. How we can implement that? We go to the advanced settings, admin center, and then we'll go to policies, data policies, and then we'll create a new policy. We'll give a policy name. So our policy name would be something that is relatable, that we are going to block some actions of that connector. So let's we write as block action of container of connector. Okay. Now we hit on this next. Here we can select for which particular environment we want this DLP to work on. So let's say try to implement this for one environment, that is my dev environment. I click select this environment and click on this add to policy. If I want to add more, I can again add another one and then click on this add. Now I'll go to next, and here it list me all the connectors that is available in my environment. So let's say I'm going for my Azure blob. So here I have this Azure blob connector. If I click on this, the moment I click on this, I get the options either to move this connector to the business category or block this particular connector or configure this connector. So blocking of this connector, it won't allow any actions of this connector to be used inside the technical implementation. However, in our scenario, we need to stop some of its actions. Okay, so I'll go with the configure connector, and here I have this connector actions. These is the list of the actions that is present in under this particular connector, like create blob, copy blob, delete blob. Okay, so let's say under some securities, I want to block one connector. Let's say list blob. I don't want this particular connector to this particular action to be used inside any implementation. So what I can do, I can simply disable this one, and let's say list blob, and then let's try to disable this as well, create blob, so that the user would not be able to get the blobs present inside the storage account, and he would not be able to create the blob because we have stopped this particular as well. And then deleting we are enabling, and then we can say now save this. Now I can click on this next and then create policy. My policy has been created. Now let's try to see what are the actions that is available. So we'll try to create a flow instant, and we'll say test security connector action. You can use your name, whatever you want to. I select this one and then hit on create. Now I'll try to find that particular connector. So our connector was Azure Blob. I'll go to Azure Blob. Where is mine? Create blob. Okay, okay. I have this Azure Blob. Now I can see that I have this list blob available. Also, I can see the create blob. Let's try to use these things. So I'll say let's list blob. Okay, it is asking me to configure my connection maybe. Okay, now if I try to see, I don't have any action. Let's say I'm passing some random values here. Just for example, okay? I'm just passing, let's say my storage name is PRS storage count at my backend. Let's say I have a folder whose name is items. Just consider a case, okay? Now, if I try to save this, what happened here? It should allow me to save this. See, I got this notification that your flow was saved, but it could not be enabled because it conflicts the company's data loss prevention. Although I haven't blocked this particular connector, but this particular action I have stopped under my DLP. Okay. Now, if I try to use any other, let's say instead of this one, I try to use another connector, say Azure Blob, and then instead of this one, I'm trying to use Copy Blob. Okay. Let's say account, I'm just using some PRS storage account. If your connection is totally healthy, you would get the storage account in this dropdown itself. But for now, since I don't have any storage account at my backend, that's the reason I'm just passing some custom values. Okay. But the aim is to show you how we can stop the particular action for any connector under the DLPs. Let's say source URL, I'm just passing at www.google.com. Destination path, I'm passing at, let's say there would be something as test folder. Okay, now let's try to save this one. This time I'm using an action which I haven't blocked, which is totally enabled for this particular environment under my DLP. So here you can see my flow has been saved, and this time it hasn't given me any warning. Now let's try to turn it on, whether I can do it or not. I'll go inside this, and then I have the option to turn on this. Okay, and let's see whether it, see, now turned off option is coming. It means this particular flow is turned on. It means whatever actions that I have used inside this flow is totally healthy with the DLP that is implemented for this particular environment. So you have seen that in our policy we have stopped two connectors, two actions under the Azure Blob connector, that is the list blobs and the create blob. If I use any action from these two, my I would be able to create a flow but would not be able to enable this or turn on this. Okay, so that's how you can stop some of the actions for your character. Okay, make sure that it is not available for all of the characters. Like if you want to implement this for the SharePoint right now, this option is not enabled for the SharePoint. So you need to check each and every connector whether you have this option or not. Okay, so that's how you can implement. So thank you all. Thank you for watching this video, everyone. Thank you.